Tessa didn't realize her hands were shaking until the page blurred. It wasn't even a page, it was a digital logistics document sent from an anonymous email, the kind that usually showed invoices, container schedules, or inspection requests. But this one had her passport photo embedded in the corner, along with a serial number she'd never seen in her life. And next to her name, typed in sterile gray font, status: reserved consignment processing date, 03 days. Her breath stuttered. This couldn't be real. Someone had used her identity inside a syndicate's export system. Someone was moving her like cargo. Her phone buzzed again. A video file. She tapped it, and the shaky recording opened to a nighttime meeting, a loading dock, lit by a single lamp. Men in business coats stood in the shadows, and in the center of them, turning his wristwatch as he spoke smoothly to two handlers. Han Do-kyung, her fiancé. Do-kyung leaned in toward the smugglers, voice low but captured clearly in the echoing space. Payment clears after the units are verified. We're expanding capacity. Keep the lists clean. Units? Lists? If you're new here and you're not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because this story is about to get dark and absolutely addictive. Comment below what time it is where you are. Tessa's stomach nodded. Her engagement ring felt like a shackle on her finger. The document, the recording, the timing. None of this made sense unless her fiancé was involved in something far darker than she ever imagined. Unless this wasn't a warning. Unless this was a countdown. A knock landed sharply on her apartment door. Tessa stuffed her phone under a pillow, forced a breath, and tried to quiet the thundering of her pulse. "Who is it?" she called, keeping her voice steady. "It's me," Naomi said. "You good?" Relief washed through her. She pulled open the door. But before Naomi could step inside, Tessa's phone vibrated again on the bed. A third notification flashed across the screen, bright and guilty as a confession. "Your entry has been confirmed. Prepare for transfer." Tessa froze. Someone wasn't just planning something. Someone had already started. She looked at Naomi, eyes sharp and terrified all at once. "Something is very wrong," she whispered. And for the first time in her life, the walls of her safe world felt like they were closing in. 3 weeks earlier, the studio lights were harsh enough to sting her eyes, though the applause softened them just slightly. Tessa forced her smile, the one she trained since childhood, polite, poised, distant. Her father stood beside her, glowing with pride, as if he had built her himself. "Today," he said into the microphone, "our family celebrates a union that will secure a prosperous future for everyone involved." Tessa's fingers went cold around the engagement announcement card she hadn't even been told existed 5 minutes ago. Han Do-kyung stood across from her, immaculate in a navy suit that fit as if stitched onto his frame. His expression was pleasant, but his eyes didn't smile. He stepped forward when the cameras panned to him. "I'm honored," he said smoothly, "to join the Mensa family." Tessa wanted to speak, to object, to breathe, to say something human, but her father's hand tightened on her shoulder, a silent warning. Not now, not here, not ever without permission. Her pulse roared in her ears as the media team wrapped up. Do-kyung leaned closer, voice soft enough that only she could hear. "Your father is a decisive man," he murmured. "It's admirable, really. He protects what he values." Then he smiled for the cameras. Tessa recognized that smile. She'd seen it once in a mirror, the kind she wore when she felt trapped. Later that night, at the cross-cultural reception hosted to celebrate the merger between Ghanaian and Korean business associations, Tessa drifted to the edges of the room, needing space. Traditional drums blended with Korean string melodies, creating a haunting, beautiful tension. Old worlds meeting new ones. She tried to breathe. She tried to swallow the rising panic. She tried not to feel like someone else had just signed her life away. A voice spoke from behind her. "You look like you're counting exits." She turned and saw him. Junpyo, tall, immaculate, composed. The kind of man whose presence shifted a room even when he was silent. She didn't recognize him, but he looked at her in a way that made the noise around them fade. "Do I know you?" she asked. He considered her a moment, head slightly tilted. Not yet. He spoke, as though certainty itself answered through him. Before she could respond, an executive from her father's circle approached, coughing lightly. Tessa, the man said, stiffly correcting his tie. You should be standing near your fiancé, not hiding in corners. She bristled. I wasn't hiding. You were being noticed by the wrong people, he snapped. Junpyo's gaze shifted lazily, like a blade glinting in dim light. Define wrong, he said, voice calm but carrying weight. The executive faltered, recognizing the tone of a man powerful enough that one wrong response could collapse his lungs. Tessa's eyebrows lifted slightly, a spark of unexpected gratitude flickering inside her. The executive cleared his throat. My apologies. I misspoke. Junpyo didn't smile. He didn't need to. He simply turned his attention back to Tessa, his expression unreadable. You shouldn't let people cage you, he said quietly. Her breath hitched, and she hated that he saw her so clearly. Before she could question him, before she could ask how he knew anything about her, she heard her father calling her name across the hall. The moment shattered. She stepped back. Junpyo didn't follow, but he didn't look away, either. Not until she did. That night, in her room, Tessa removed the engagement ring and stared at her reflection. She wasn't hiding. Not yet. But she was starting to understand she needed protection, and the man who offered it first wasn't her fiancé, and it definitely wasn't her father. It was the dangerous stranger who saw through her facade in 2 seconds. The man named Junpyo. Tessa woke and checked the manifest again. The gray font did not change. Her name blinked like a claim. She logged into the company portal using a burner account Naomi had set up. She moved fast. Files blurred. Dates. Vessel names. Clearance windows. She matched one manifest to another. Then she saw it. A routing pattern that repeated at odd hours, always through the same inspection node. The node should have been busy. Yet it showed gaps windows where no official checks occurred. Someone was making time and space. She called Naomi. Found something, Naomi said, in a flat voice. This isn't normal. These manifests are being patched. Patched how? Tessa asked. Back-end edits. Metadata timestamps altered after audits. Someone with admin-level access made the changes. Naomi paused. And they used a clean public passport entry as cover. Yours, Tessa. A silence like a held breath. Run me through it, Tessa said. They worked until the sun was low. Naomi pulled up a heat map. A single route pulsed red. It moved cultural shipments between galleries and then straight to a private node. The node name was innocuous, an archival hub used by collectors. But collectors did not require speed lanes through port security. Someone's commuting proof through prestige, Naomi said. Makes it harder for auditors to find it. People assume cultural. Who edits the logs? Tessa asked. Someone inside, Naomi said. Or someone with inside access. This isn't just Do-kyung's signature. It's someone who knows how to hide a signature. Tessa rubbed her temple. Her father's announcement came back to her like a press feed stuck on loop. Mensa's smile. Do-kyung's clean suit. The world that wanted her tidy. She needed proof, not rumor. She needed a name. That night, she left a message for Junpyo. He replied with a time and a place. They met in the gallery again. Junpyo chose a corner, where light pooled like a stage. He did not look like a man who trafficked in anything. He looked like someone used to maps. You looked at the wrong window, he said without greeting. He dropped a printed snippet on the table between them. A cropped screenshot. A single, altered timestamp, circled in red. It proves nothing, he said. But it proves pattern. Tessa's hand hovered over the paper. How do you have this? Junpyo's mouth did not move much, I asked. You asked who? He held her gaze like a ledger. People who want to keep their hands clean often keep networks dirtier. I have people who watch routing. I have people who watch men who think their hands are clean. She swallowed. So, Do-kyung. He's a node, Junpyo corrected. A public face. Useful. But the hand that signs a ledger is sometimes a different hand. Tessa's heart thudded. You mean someone is framing him, or using him, Junpyo said. Either way, you are in the center. She felt the room tilt. The gallery chatter dimmed. He did not offer her comfort. He offered clarity. If you want to stay safe, he said, don't make sudden moves. Let the pattern reveal itself. Tessa bristled. I won't be a ledger. He watched her. Then don't be predictable. She left the gallery with more questions but less panic. Junpyo had given her a compass, not a map. That was the least she had expected and the most she could use. 2 days later, Mensah called during a board meeting. His voice on the speaker sounded controlled. His expression was not. Tessa, he said, cutting the call short with a tension she could feel through the line. They're asking questions. The board wants certainty. Investors are nervous. Han Do-kyung's counsel called. I need a decision. Tessa tightened her grip on the phone. You made that decision without me, she said. Don't be dramatic, Mensah replied. This alliance secures 4 major contracts. It secures jobs. It secures our legacy. We cannot be reckless. You sold my life as if it were stock, she said. Keep your voice down, Mensah snapped. You are not thinking of the bigger picture. If you refuse this, if you make trouble, then the company suffers. I cannot protect you from that. She heard the edge in his voice, a new hardness. What are you saying? Tessa asked. Your name is on the registry, yes, Mensah answered. But I control share transfers. I can remove you from the registry. You will own nothing of the company. You will have no claim. Is independence worth that cost? The ultimatum landed precise and cold. He dressed it as sacrifice. It felt like betrayal. If you remove me, she said slowly, you remove my future here. You will survive without it, he said. You will find a new life. But know this. A refusal tears the safety net. I will not negotiate. Tessa's chest tightened. She imagined walking away with nothing. She imagined Junpyo's folded paper and Naomi's maps and the manifest that named her as consignment. She made a choice in a single breath. I will not marry him. Silence filled the call. Mensah took it as failure, not courage. If you choose that, he said finally, I will begin the process tomorrow. The line clicked dead. She sat back and let the weight sit where it landed. The room felt smaller. The city outside moved on, indifferent. When she hung up, her phone buzzed with a text from Naomi. Someone just filed a complaint. Corporate security flagged you for alleged espionage. They froze your access. Her breath stopped. Someone was moving pieces. Fast. She raced to the company portal. Login denied. Access restricted. Her inbox filled with formal notices she didn't understand. She tried to call Mensah. No answer. A second message arrived. This one from an unknown number. A short text and nothing more. Play your part and this will end quietly. Her hands shook so badly that she dropped the phone. She stared at the ceiling until the light blurred. Someone wanted her to be compliant. Someone wanted her silenced. She thought of Junpyo's calm words, of Naomi's heat map, of the manifest with her name like a brand. She would not be catalogued. She would not be made predictable. She would not be quiet. She pulled Naomi into a secure chat and typed, quick, blunt, sharp. They froze my access. They filed complaints. I'm being pushed. What now? Naomi answered in 2 words. Find evidence. Her thumb hovered. Find evidence? She looked at the city beyond her window. The archival hub Naomi had cross-referenced during the heat map sweep pulsed in her mind. Small, overlooked. A place where cultural shipments passed and paperwork sat unattended. She typed one response. I'll go. Her finger hovered before she sent it. Naomi countered immediately. Don't. I'll come. Tessa stared at the laptop screen. The manifest with her name felt hot in the back of her mind. Mensah's voice echoed control, veiled as care. Do-kyung's face in the dockside clip taunted like a mirror. She deleted Naomi's reply. She did not respond. If she let Naomi come, she thought, someone might get hurt. She would not be the cause of harm. She tapped send. I have to go alone. The message went through. Naomi's reply came back 5 seconds later. Camera ping at 4:12. Someone's watching the hub. Tessa swallowed. She set the phone down. She pressed her palms flat on the table until the air left her lungs. She would go. She would find proof. She would not be an entry on someone's ledger. She would not be anyone's merchandise. She stood up. The decision felt like a line drawn in wet cement. Once made, it would not wash away. Outside, the city breathed. Inside, a clock ticked closer to the hour. Tessa didn't sleep. She watched the clock tick toward dawn, each minute sharpening her resolve. Every detail of the manifest, her name, the timestamp, the classification burned in her mind like a quiet warning. If she waited, she'd lose whatever window she had left. At 6:12 a.m., she left her apartment and stepped into a city still pulling its breath together. Naomi called twice. Tessa declined both calls. She took a rideshare to avoid tracing her car, switching vehicles twice the way Junpyo taught her the night she met him. If you're being hunted, he'd said, move like you're invisible. If you can't be invisible, be unpredictable. She wasn't sure which one she was now. She arrived at the museum before opening hours. The building was minimalist glass facades, long stone paths, tall quiet doors that never creaked. The Cultural Freight Annex sat behind the main structure, a small, bunker-like extension with restricted personnel access. A guard was posted, bored and half asleep. Tessa approached with calculated confidence. My father booked an early curator handoff, she said, holding up her access pass. It was old, technically expired, but the guard barely glanced at the date. He checked the roster. No curator listed. It was added late, she said smoothly. We needed to verify a transfer sequence before the exhibit moves. The man hesitated, then shrugged. Fine. Stay in the East Archive. Don't touch anything marked red. He buzzed her through. Tessa stepped into the dim corridor, her heartbeat in her ears. The hum of refrigeration units echoed through the walls, steady, low, mechanical, like the breathing of something asleep. She found the server room easily. A metal door tucked between two storage bays, full of wrapped crates. Naomi's heat map had pinpointed this exact location. This was where manifests were copied, altered, and buried under cultural paperwork. She scanned the room cameras in blind spots, motion sensors on a minimal setting. Someone had been here recently. A swivel chair sat slightly off-center, a terminal still blinking softly. Tessa moved inside. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she began typing. The screen opened into a directory, a series of legitimate files, paintings, stone artifacts, textile collections, shipment rotations. A mundane museum worker would see nothing wrong, but Tessa clicked deeper. Hidden folders flickered into view. Naomi had predicted the encryption pattern, stacked figures disguised as archival batches. Tessa opened one and froze. Dozens of identities, passport scans, matching consignment codes. Her name wasn't the only one. She dragged the files into a secure download window. Progress. 8%, 11%, 17%. A soft mechanical thunk echoed behind her. She turned. The door had closed. She exhaled. Probably an automatic hinge. She turned back to the terminal. Progress. 23%, 27%. The room temperature dropped slightly. She rubbed her arms, moved closer to the machine's warmth. Then she heard it. A hiss, soft and steady. Not from the server, from the vent above her. She looked up. Cold air poured through, unnaturally cold. Her stomach tightened. No, 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 she whispered. She bolted for the door, but when she reached for the handle, her fingers hit steel that didn't move. Locked. The handle didn't budge, not even an inch. She slammed her shoulder into it. Nothing. Someone had activated a containment protocol. Inside a museum archive. Inside a shipment hub connected to her fiancé's roots. Progress. 41%. 45%. She felt her breath tremble. The cold was increasing. Not lethal, not yet, but enough to slow her, weaken her, fog her mind. A speaker inside the room crackled. A voice distorted, electronic filled the space. "You shouldn't have come alone." Tessa's skin went numb. She didn't recognize the voice. Male, filtered, calm. "You were supposed to follow instructions," it said. "Compliance keeps you safe." Her throat tightened. She forced herself to speak. "Who are you?" No response. She tried again, louder. "Why use my name? Why attach me to your system?" Still nothing. Just the cold. Progress. 63%. 64%. She backed toward the server, both arms crossed for warmth. Her teeth began to chatter. She typed a message into Naomi's emergency channel. But the screen flickered. No network. Isolation. A trap built with precision. The voice returned, gentler this time. "You were chosen because you're clean, visible, valuable. A bridge." A bridge. The word hit like a slap. A bridge between what? Tessa demanded. Silence again. Her breaths were coming faster. She rubbed her hands together, willing her body to keep moving. She looked around for anything to break the door. Nothing. The crates outside the glass partition were too far to reach. The door required a bypass only from the outside. The cold hiss deepened. Progress. 71%. 75%. Her fingers stiffened. She tried messaging Junpyo next. The text didn't send. No signal. She pressed her forehead to the server tower, drawing warmth from its faint hum. "Please," she whispered, though she didn't know who she was speaking to. "Please finish downloading." She forced herself to think. If the vents were automated, there had to be a maintenance override. She scanned the ceiling. No maintenance panel. She scanned the lower walls. Nothing. Progress. 82%. 87%. Time slowed. Her breath came in shivers. She pressed her hand over her chest, feeling her heartbeat flicker between fear and fury. She felt the anger rising, the kind that comes from knowing someone has decided your fate without your consent. She would not be cargo. She would not be a bridge. She would not die in a cold room built for secrets. She reached under the console, searching for the emergency power conduit Naomi taught her to identify. If she could overload the terminal by tripping the processor relay, her hand brushed a cable. Progress. 93%. 96%. A loud metallic click snapped through the room. Then, darkness. The lights cut out. Her heart stopped. The screen shut off mid-download. "No," she breathed. "No. No. No, please." The room fell silent. Even the cold hiss paused, as if the system itself were holding its breath. Then footsteps echoed outside. Slow. Measured. Someone was standing right on the other side of the locked door. "Who's there?" she shouted. Silence. Then, another metallic click. The vent roared back to life, twice as cold. Her breath burst out in a cloud. And the voice returned, closer this time, almost whispering. "You weren't supposed to fight." Tessa stumbled back. Her knees buckled. Tears stung her eyes, not from fear, but from rage. The voice continued. "You've changed the timeline." Timeline? She dropped to the floor, palms pressed to the freezing tile. Her breath shook uncontrollably. She heard the footsteps again, leaving this time, walking away. The vents kept hissing. Tessa curled her fingers into fists and forced herself toward the terminal, even though the screen was black. She hit the power button again and again. Nothing. She was losing consciousness. "Not like this," she whispered. Her vision dimmed. Her body grew heavy. The last thing she heard, a crash outside. A voice she recognized. A name she never expected to hear, shouted in fear and fury. The world snapped back all at once. Metal cracked. A violent, ripping sound tore through the frozen darkness. "Tessa." His voice didn't echo. It hit. "Junpyo." Another impact slammed the door, not a knock, not a strike. A promise. Tessa tried to answer, but her lips barely parted. Her breath clouded in front of her. The vents hissed harder, as if the room wanted to swallow her before he reached her. A final metallic shriek split the air. The door bent inward. Then it tore free. A rush of warm air flooded in. Strong arms wrapped around her instantly, lifting her off the ice-cold floor before her mind realized she'd left it. Junpyo didn't say her name again. He didn't need to. His hold said everything. "You're freezing," he muttered, voice edged with something lethal. "Look at me." Her vision blurred, but she saw enough the cut of his jaw, the fury burning under his calm. The way he scanned her body, like each shiver, was a personal offense. "I tried," she whispered. "No," he said sharply. "You survived. That's enough." He draped his coat over her shoulders, tucking it with controlled urgency. Every movement was precise, efficient, desperate in a way only iron-willed men allowed themselves when no one else was watching. A backup operative stepped in behind him. Junpyo didn't turn. "Kill the vents." The man obeyed instantly. The freezing hiss died. Tessa clutched the coat around her, shaking. "The files. Almost finished." Junpyo's eyes hardened. "I know. My team pulled the backup cache. You did more than enough." He lifted her again, no hesitation, no strain, and carried her out of the vault. The hallway felt too bright, the temperature almost painful in contrast. She buried her face against his chest without thinking. He adjusted his grip, one hand supporting her back, the other cradling her legs with fierce protectiveness. "You shouldn't have come alone," he said, not scolding, not gentle, just truth sharpened into resolve. She closed her eyes. "I didn't want anyone else hurt." Junpyo exhaled once, a sound that wasn't frustration, wasn't relief, something deeper, something dangerous. "I decide what hurts me," he said quietly. "Not you." He set her on a bench outside the vault and knelt in front of her, hands steady on her arms, warming life back into her. "Stay awake," he ordered. She tried, but everything spun. A tech specialist hurried over with a small metal chip. "We extracted this before the system shut down," he said. "Partial data, but strong." Junpyo didn't take his hands off Tessa. "Is it enough?" "Yes," the specialist said. "More than enough." Junpyo nodded once. "Get it decrypted. Every second counts." The man ran. Tessa gripped Junpyo's sleeve. Her voice cracked. "Someone talked to me. Through the vents, they said I was chosen. A bridge." His expression didn't change, but his grip on her arms tightened ever so slightly. "I know who uses that term," he said, "and I know what it means." Her breath trembled. "Tell me." "Not when you're shaking," he said. "Not while you're still in the shadow of someone else's trap." She swallowed. "You're angry." "No," he said softly. "Angry is too small." He stood as medics arrived, stepping aside only long enough to let them wrap her in heated blankets. But he didn't move farther than arm's reach. His orbit stayed locked around her. As she was eased into the ambulance, she reached for him. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They won't get another chance," he replied. Then his phone lit. He scanned the message, his jaw locked. "What happened?" she asked. Junpyo looked up at her, the controlled calm in his eyes burning hotter than any outburst. "Han Do-kyung just held a press conference," he said. "He called you unstable, a liability, a threat to national operations." Tessa's stomach dropped. Junpyo gave a short, humorless breath. "He thinks that will protect him." She gripped the ambulance door frame. "Will it?" Junpyo stepped closer, so close the shadows of the streetlights cut between them like thin blades. "Not anymore," he said. "Not after what you found." His voice dropped lower. "And not after what I'm about to do." Across the city, Junpyo's analysts attacked the encrypted chip with the speed of a war room. Screens filled with manifests, banking routes, flag names, asset transfers, port exemptions, fragments of a criminal spine, too large to be immediate, too intricate to be accidental. The lead analyst turned to him. "This isn't just smuggling. It's a multi-region laundering channel disguised through cultural exchanges and luxury logistics, all tied to Do-kyung's network." Junpyo said nothing for 5 full seconds. Then, "Release everything." The analyst blinked. "Sir, all of it? Do you see hesitation?" Junpyo asked. "No." "Then release it." 2 hours later, the world shifted. Breaking. Han Du-kyung, under urgent investigation. Regulatory strike teams raid private archival node. Multinational partners cut ties with Du-kyung Holdings. Asset freeze order signed at 16:03. Board members resign. Tessa watched the headlines from her hospital room, her fingertips pressed to her lips. Everything Do-kyung built was collapsing, not slowly, not painfully, completely, effortlessly, irreversibly. Junpyo didn't dismantle networks the way corporations did. He erased them. Her heart beat unsteadily. Some people protected by defending. Junpyo protected by eliminating. Not cruelly, precisely. And for the first time since her world shattered, Tessa felt something shift inside her, not fear. Recognition. This was a man who did not need permission to burn down danger. And he had burned it for her. The training center's courtyard smelled faintly of paint and new lumber, new beginnings, hiding the ashes of what had nearly consumed her. Children ran between booths, while volunteers set up displays. It should have felt peaceful. But Tessa's pulse hadn't settled since dawn. The investigation into Du-kyung exploded across every news outlet. Investors fled. Partners withdrew. His closest allies vanished behind legal statements. The police escorted him out of his office in a quiet, humiliating procession his PR team couldn't spin. And everyone kept asking the same question. How did a woman with no official power bring down a man like Han Do-kyung? Tessa didn't answer. She knew the truth. She hadn't. Junpyo had. And now, she had to decide what that meant for her future. Mensa found her near a display of handcrafted textiles. He held his hands behind his back, awkward in a way she hadn't seen since childhood. "You look stronger," he said. "I feel awake," she replied. He nodded. "Good." A beat of silence stretched tight, uncertain, necessary. "Tessa," Mensa said quietly, "I have rescinded the engagement contract. I've submitted testimony to regulators, and I've stepped down as board chair until the audit clears." She blinked. "You stepped down?" "It was time," he admitted. "And I needed you to know I meant what I said in the hospital. You lead your own life. I will not shape its edges again." Her chest loosened. Not healed, still raw, but hopeful. "Thank you, Daddy," she whispered. Mensa placed a hand briefly on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you. Not for what you survived, but for refusing to let anyone decide your worth." Then he stepped back, giving her the space he'd once taken. Junpyo arrived 20 minutes later. Not with security, not with ceremony. Just himself, dark suit, controlled steps, eyes locked on her as if tracking the single constant in a shifting world. Tessa's breath stilled. He approached slowly, deliberately, like a man accustomed to danger, but not to peace. The air changed around him. People sensed him before seeing him. Authority clung to him like a shadow he no longer bothered hiding. "You're walking better," he said. "I'm warm again," she replied. Something softened barely in his expression. He handed her a small black folder. No explanation. She opened it. Inside were 3 documents. A legal registration for a cultural trade initiative. A partnership contract, naming her as co-director. A dissolution form for several dark network entities tied to his past empire. Tessa looked up at him. "You're shutting everything down." "I already have," he said. "These are the last pieces. Every illegal route I controlled is gone." Her heartbeat quickened. "All of it? You built that for years, and I dismantled it in weeks," he replied. "Because a world built on shadows doesn't deserve you in it." Tessa swallowed hard. "I didn't ask you to do this." "No," he said. "You asked nothing. You made choices. Brave ones. And you walked into danger because you believed no one would come for you." He stepped closer. "You were wrong." Her breath hitched. "You have your father," he continued. "You have Naomi. And you have me." The last words landed with quiet certainty, not possessive, not demanding. A commitment, not a cage. "I want a legacy I don't have to hide," he said. "And I want you beside me as a partner, not as someone I must rescue from other men's greed." Her fingers tightened on the folder. "Is that what this is?" she asked, softly. Partnership? It's whatever you choose, he said. But if you want truth, yes. I want you with me. Not because you were targeted. Because you made me choose the kind of man I want to be. The honesty hit harder than any declaration of love could have. Tessa inhaled shakily. It feels too fast. Too big. Then we move at your pace, he said. Just don't walk backward. She let out a small, breathy laugh, the first real laugh she'd felt in months. Show me, she said. Junpyo's eyebrow lifted. Show you what? That you can build something without destroying something else. He nodded once. I will. And for the first time since meeting him, she fully believed him. The ribbon-cutting ceremony began. Cameras clicked. Volunteers cheered. Mensa stood beside her, beaming with a pride that didn't carry chains. Junpyo watched from a distance, not intruding, not asserting, simply existing in her line of sight, like a fixed point she could lean toward if she wanted to. She cut the ribbon. The crowd applauded. Her father squeezed her hand. Junpyo gave her the faintest nod. One she felt more than saw. It should have ended there. But peace in their world never lasted long. A courier approached with cautious steps, holding a sealed envelope. For Miss Mensa, he said. She frowned. From who? They didn't leave a name, the courier replied, before stepping away. Tessa opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet. Her breath froze. A copy of the reserved consignment list, the one she'd nearly died retrieving. Her name was still circled, but now 3 more were circled beneath hers. Her eyes scanned the bottom of the page. A single sentence typed in calm, cold clarity. You were never the only target. Her stomach dropped. On the far rooftop across the courtyard, a silhouette stood motionless, watching her. Junpyo noticed her sudden stillness. In 2 heartbeats, he was beside her. What happened? He asked. Tessa handed him the paper. This isn't over. Junpyo's eyes darkened dangerously. No, he said. It isn't. Tessa stared at the shadow on the roof. A chill ran through her, not the helpless kind, but the awakening kind. She wasn't prey anymore. She wasn't cargo. She wasn't a bridge for someone else's scheme. She was a threat to the people who had built this network. And now they knew she wasn't alone. She exhaled slowly. Junpyo, she whispered, we're going to have to find them. He didn't ask who. He didn't ask why. He just said, then we start tonight. But then, who stood on that rooftop? Why were they watching her instead of striking? And what are they waiting for? Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories like this.